Rising prices, smaller figures, uneven distribution. So I ask, do you love your toys enough to not get frustrated with the process? Considering all of what I've just said, then add the ongoing repaints and the re-releases of the same characters over and over, plus the hard-to-find exclusives and a seemingly unfair secondary market. As an action figure collector, where do you draw the line? Is it time to quit? Or does the thrill of the hunt keep you going? Either way, let's talk about it. So join me for this riveting discussion on the state of Transformers collecting in this day and age. Let's begin. Welcome back to the Toy Connections Action Figure channel. My name's Ken, and I thought today we would get into a bit of a discussion about Transformers figure sizing relative to the price. Bang for your buck. Are you getting it? Are you not? Where do you stand? Where do I stand? Either way, we're here to talk. So the one thing that you'll probably notice if you've been collecting for any period of time is that the figures seem to be getting smaller, but the price seems to be going up. And it's a constant battle, a constant push-pull about, is it worth it? Is it not? Do you keep going? Have you gone far enough that you just want to keep going until you hit a practical or feasible stopping point? Either way, it's an ongoing battle. Bit of a first world problem, but I'm here to join you in your love-hate relationship of said first world problem. So the one thing you'll probably notice if you've been collecting long enough to remember some of the earlier modern figures, going all the way back to the 2006 Classics, and even if you weren't collecting at that time when Classics Universe Generation was coming out in the 2000s, you may remember some of the 2010s era of Combiner Wars, Titans Return, Power of the Primes, those sorts of Transformers sublines, and you'll notice that the figures were a certain price point. If you bought a Deluxe figure, you got used to that figure being, well, a certain class. Deluxe was this big, Voyager was that big, Leader was that big, and your Titan class was much bigger. It's got to the point now where I kind of feel like the Deluxe class figure has gotten smaller. What used to be a Deluxe is now being charged at the higher Voyager class price point. The Voyager class is now pushing the price of a Leader class. And on top of all that, the Leader class has now somewhat expanded into this in-between class called the Commander class of figures. And of course, you've still got your large Titan class figures like you saw with Earthrise, Scorponok, Siege, Omega Supreme, so on and so forth. You've always had figures in that sizing class anyway. But the whole thing about getting bang for your buck. The figures, whether they're basics or Voyager or whatnot, I noticed that not only are they getting smaller and pricier, but the figures are also getting a lot lighter. Like you're getting less plastic, it feels like. It feels like that the limbs are more hollow. It feels like that the body construction is just more empty. Now, I grant you, the figure likeness is getting better relative to what we're used to when we compare what the figures looked like in our childhood. That blockiness of G1 figure, but with better articulation today, the likeness that can match the original cartoon, all that seems to be getting better. So like design likeness in my mind is improving, as it should. But you know, with the rising manufacturing costs, and I understand that pricing has gone up for manufacturing in China as well as Vietnam, when Hasbro can do production in Vietnam. It's not for every figure and every toy line, but they do manufacture in more than one country, to my understanding. And also shipping container prices being astronomically high compared to the past. I understand that the end consumer, the end user, the end buyer, people like you and me are going to have to pay the price to offset the difference. I'm not making excuses for that because I don't like paying those prices. I am noticing that when a deluxe figure used to cost X amount in the past, it's now X times 2. And now you're getting less figure in the process. So just with regards to that, I noticed a certain characters, I don't know if you can see Double Dealer over here, but a character like Double Dealer or the Legacy Blitzwing or the Siege and Earthrise Astro Train figure, those were sold at the leader class scale. But historically, in previous incarnations of the toy line, they had always been, I'm not sure about Double Dealer, how often he's been released, but those had always been very much Voyager size figures. And all of a sudden now we're paying the leader class pricing for these guys. Now, I noticed with characters like Optimus Prime in the Earthrise and Kingdom release of him, they gave us basically a Voyager class figure, but then they gave us a trailer on the inside so that they could price it at a leader class. And I was like, okay, and I know some of you guys noticed that, and a lot of us just went with it anyway because it's a good looking enough figure for the shelf. You're getting just enough plastic that you can know you're only overpaying by a little bit, or at least this is the process in my head. But where the real kick in the pants came, because there was already a little bit of hesitation to pay leader class pricing for something that was really a Voyager with a trailer, was when they introduced the Commander class of figure. Now, I understand they needed the Commander class size of figure to bridge the gap in between the leader scale and the Titan scale. Now, when you have a figure, and you can probably see Skylinks over here, when you have a figure of that size, that's a larger bot, that's a two-piece figure, that's a little too big for a leader and not big enough to be a Titan class, I understand that you'd want to make that a Commander class scale. I understood that when they decided to do Jetfire, because he was something like 14 inches tall. Now, where they started to kick us in the pants a little bit is when Rodimus Prime came out. And it's a figure that's largely just, well, not even. It's barely a leader class figure. It's got a nice big trailer to it. But we would have been like, okay, we could pay the leader class pricing for that. But then they put it out in the Commander class pricing. And then they did the same thing with the Motormaster figure for Menasor. So you got to ask yourself, when is enough enough? Have they priced this out of the market to the point where it's just starting to get a little bit silly and a little bit ridiculous in terms of what we're paying versus what we're getting? So where I'm at today is I'm noticing this and I'm questioning the process more and more. It's not something that I used to question in the past. Back during the earlier days of the modern Transformers collecting, I wasn't as happy with the figure likeness. I thought they were okay. Even back then, I wasn't super crazy about some of them, but the pricing was good. Now I'm getting to the point where I'm enjoying the likeness, I'm enjoying the design, but the pricing is making me question how far I want to go. I'm starting to think, you know, I wonder when my brain will say, okay, that's the last figure I need for modern, so I'm going to stop buying full waves or most of the figure wave and just start dabbling in on a specialty basis, one-off figure here, one-off figure there. I'm starting to get to that point. I got to be honest with you. I'm hoping to get to that point sooner than later where I start to say, I'm going to buy less of these figures, and I will happily do so, and it'll feel more special, and I won't feel like it's as draining on my wallet. I mean, even for those of you guys who have higher budgets and have a high disposable income, you'll notice the increase in price, and you'll still be, you know, like, you'll still at some point ask yourself, how many price hikes before I start either curbing my spending or just quit outright? I'm not telling anyone what to do. Clearly, if you look at the shelves behind me, I haven't quit. I haven't shown signs of slowing down, but my brain is starting to turn the corner a little bit and start to question, is it still worth collecting the way I had in recent years? Now, all this is a discussion about modern. I know the question will probably come up, so I'll just address it anyway with regards to vintage. Vintage Transformers, they're doing what they're doing. They're going up kind of at an expected rate. To an extent, it's inflation that's driving the price. To an extent, it's the market demand of guys like you or me having to have that figure and competing with one another for it. But mind you, that's a little bit out of the hands of Hasbro because that's vintage stuff. All I'm trying to say is that everything is going up. I get it, but for the things that we can control on a wave by wave basis, I'm starting to wonder if more and more people are starting to get priced out. I know that I'm starting to wonder if I'm getting priced out. Clearly, like I said earlier, I'm not quite there, but when the question does get asked, I think longer about the topic than I used to, where it used to be an automatic buy at a figure for a certain price point. And I'm not going to get into exact price points here, but when a figure was $14.99, regardless of the country you were in, let's just use round numbers, $15, let's just say that. It was easier to break out the wallet to do that than it is to break it out for the same class of figure, whether it's a deluxe figure or whatnot, and it's now $30 and you're getting a smaller figure. And then it's $33 and then it's $35. Just so you know, that's in Canadian dollars. I understand in the US it's going to be a bit less on the conversion rate. That's why I said I didn't want to get it too deep into the currency, because I know a lot of you guys are out there saying that the price of a Deluxe or a Voyager figure is X in your country because that's the currency you work in. All I'm trying to say is that it keeps going up and I'm starting to question it. Having said all that, it is the nostalgia that drives us and kind of keeps us going. Now, I know that even if you got priced out for Transformers and you want to look somewhere else, everything else is going up too, right? Star Wars Black Series, G.I. Joe Classified, Marvel Legends, it's all going up. Now, the reason I didn't focus the discussion so much on those is that a lot of those are a uniform scale, right? A lot of those are priced the same as your Transformers Deluxe figure. So whether that's $25 in the US or whether that's $35 to $40 in Canada, they're kind of priced uniformly. Yes, I understand certain Star Wars Black Series figures that come with extra accessories or certain Marvel Legends figures that are a little bit bigger. They're priced $10 more or $15 more, kind of akin to what the Transformers Voyager class figure is being charged out at. So I tried to flash up some images here and there if people aren't familiar with some of the size classes, but I just thought this would be a very interesting discussion to have with you guys as an audience and just throw the question out there. You know, I don't think anyone's going to say that the figures are cheap, but the question is, are they still worth it? You know, does your love for buying the figures and the characters, does that override the pricing? Will you save a little extra? You know, will you cut costs somewhere else in life to make sure you get those figures, to make sure you get that set of characters? You know, I focused a lot on Transformers, but maybe part of the discussion can revolve a bit around some of the other toy lines I've talked about earlier here as well. Like I said, I'm kind of getting there, but I got in too deep to the point that I just want to get to the finish line, whatever that finish line happens to be and whenever it is. I mean, is it a couple of years away? You know, is it sooner than that? Is it after that? I'm not really sure. I'm kind of just riding the wave of instinct and going where my heart desires at this point in time. So anyway, talk to me in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about where the prices are. Are you still getting figures that you think are worth it? Are they no longer worth it? Did you prefer the modern figures from 10 or 15 years ago despite the different designs and different likenesses? Anyway, before we sign off, I thought I'd give a shout out to my Patreon supporters whose names can be found in the description section of this video. And please visit patreon.com/toyconnections, where I do put up some exclusive content and some other benefits as well. Otherwise, that's it for this video. If you'd like to see some of my other content, be sure to click on one of the video links up here and be sure to hit the subscribe button on the way out. Otherwise, I'll see you again soon with some more of my favorite toys. Take care and have a good one.